back in the April meeting, I presented about the real estate market model and WFRC's forecasting efforts, and specifically the household and job forecast that we use the real estate market model, or REM, to inform. The household and job forecast basically is looking from 2019 out to 2050 every year and forecasting population, households, and employment by sector. And we're doing this at the traffic analysis zone level, and also at these things that we call city areas that look a lot like cities, especially with the new improved TAS that we're in the process of releasing. This is an important data set. We use it all the time within WFRC, in particular for project prioritization, right? It's informing the travel demand model. It's also relevant to environmental studies, and also just good resource for economic development and resource planning, like water, that kind of thing. So we update the forecast every 4 years. And to do that this time around, we updated all of the input data layers that go into this real estate market model: demographic and housing information, employment, job locations, local land use policies, and then parcel information from the county assessors. And we're just now finishing what we're calling our preliminary draft forecast. And I'm more or less here to share it with you. We have a web map that lets you kind of jump in and check out your city. And ideally, if you see anything that you think that we need to work on coming month or so, we'd love to get feedback from you. And I'm going to show you how to use the web map, and then also how to jump in and leave some comments for specific areas. Does that sound like a plan? Okay, so we're focused on where people are going to live and work in the future. And that's just a foundational building block for a lot of the planning work that we all do. Okay, so this is the web map, but just for fun, I'm going to go paste the URL. I remember how to paste. In here, by default, this household and job forecast viewer map is going to load, and we've got two modes. And the default mode it loads at is showing the annual forecasts themselves for each year. It looks like it loads 2050 by default. And it has this other mode, which I'll touch on really quickly at the end, but I think it'll be self-explanatory, called change, which lets you look at the change in population, jobs, and households between any 2 years. So right at the top, you've got the first choice in the interface is the map geography level. Do you want traffic analysis levels zones, or do you want to view those city areas where we aggregate everything up to the city and show the forecast there? And then you've got what year do you want to look at? They're all there. It's pretty performant, so they'll load in pretty quickly. Just for fun, let's go look at 2030, just so you get a feel for this. So right now it's showing you the forecasted household count for each city area in the year 2030. We can click on any city we want to. I was going to use Layton as an example. And it's going to show you the raw data at 5-year increments over here in the table. It'll highlight what you're looking at right now, which is households in 2030, but show you five-year increment data. And you can pivot between counts and densities in the map. So if I want the map display to show densities, it can do that. Same thing with the data table down here between counts and densities. But, I think it's a good place to start looking at city area forecast, but we really want you to dig in to the detailed TAZ level forecast in this draft product. And to do that, I'm going to go back to the travel analysis zone level, and I'm going to zoom into Layton, maybe drag it down a little bit so we get a little bit of the base too. And same principle applies. We can click on any TAZ and see the trend line forecast and the data for the graph. We can open up a legend anytime we want, move it around, and it will tell you what the color bar means. We can also, any base map that we want, so we can go for this sort of aerial photography base and use the transparency slider to zoom in and out. So I've used households in the example so far. You can actually choose any element that you want to focus in on: population, 3 sectors of jobs, total jobs, and then this last thing we're calling household plus job intensity. And that actually is sort of a pseudo metric that scales the number of households up to the number of jobs in the region, and just shows you just kind of like an overview of how intense the land is being used for both residential and employment type land use. Another thing that's kind of cool in this web map is that we can use this increment tool to move the forecast forward and backward in 5 or 10-year increments, and it updates the map. And you can see sort of what's being shown updated in the data table. And for any of the graphs, you can go in and customize them. If you just want to see households and total jobs, you can do that for any city or TAS. So the last thing that I want to demo, and I'm moving kind of quickly here, but certainly take comments, questions afterwards or after the meeting. We've got 2 buttons to access this comment functionality. So I'm going to click on the tabs for the Layton Mall. And I'm going to click on either submit feedback here for this TAS, or I can access the same functionality in the upper right corner. It's going to open up a feedback panel. You can put in your email address and then type in a comment you want and submit it to us. And that's really helpful because we get information about the specific area that you think is high or low, or maybe the timing's not the way that you'd like to see it. And you put your comment in, type it in. That's pretty useful stuff. Hit submit. You'll also be able to see the comments that were placed ahead of you. So it's a good way for us to kind of track our response to comments that are left. I said I'd conclude by looking at this change mode. This is pretty intuitive. I think for any of these metrics, you can look at the amount of change that's happening at a density or account level, just like the rest of the map interface. But you get to set the year that the change is being calculated between. So if you want to see change between, we'll say, the base year 2019 and 2035, it will update the map to do those calculations. All right, I'm going to go quickly back to the slide deck and just say we're hoping to get feedback from cities, counties, other stakeholders by the end of the month. And feedback on the forecast, I mentioned the comment function within the web map, but you're also welcome to reach out to anybody at WFRC, in particular the real estate market model team, which is myself, Andy Lee, and Josh Reynolds. And Jory insisted that we put our most recent school pictures in the slide deck. So there they are.
Thanks, Bert. That's great information, and a huge, I think, benefit to us as communities to use that to project and analyze. That's awesome. That's a lot of work, and I can do a slow clap here, but anyways, that's awesome. Thank you so much for all of that you guys do with the data, because I know for our little organization, data is a difficult thing to gather and build and tell the story with. So thank you.
This is not a perfect process, but it gets better the more eyes and are on it and the more information that we can collect. So really encourage folks to try and carve out an hour or two to play with their city and let us know what you find.
Cool. No, that's awesome. That's very awesome, Bert. Thanks again. Thanks to your team, Andy and Josh, and everybody at WFRC. That's a phenomenal resource. So
this is Brandon from Layton. On the map, so you clicked on the mall area, and so I was just curious. It showed 4,500 for 2050 for the household and job intensity. Where are you getting the numbers from? Just curious. Where you're drawing from?
So this is actually a really interesting area because at least in this particular REM run, because the mall area is a Wasatch Choice Center, and there's more of a mixed use land future envisioned for that. There's a period at which it becomes attractive for redevelopment, and a lot of households get added to the area, and there's a as a result there's a a modest decrease in jobs. But to your specific question, that household plus intensity is taking the number of households and factoring it up so that their households are being treated at the same level as jobs. There are more jobs than households in the region. So we factor it up and then we just add the two scores. So really what you're looking at is households times 1.8, which is how many jobs there are per household in the region, plus jobs, and that equals the green line.
Oh, perfect. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, it's a rough measure, but it's otherwise it's hard to look at employment and residential land intensity together, but hopefully this gives us some idea.
Yeah, the graph's helpful. So thank you.